Welcome back to Vox Terra, and if you have not done so, please do subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell. So many people are taking the defeat of the Buffalo mayoral candidate India Walton to the incumbent Byron Brown as a repudiation of democratic socialism. Well, I want to put forth I do not necessarily think it is a repudiation of democratic socialism, but while there may be some truth in that critique. Well, why do I not think that? Well, whenever I discuss the concept of democratic socialist with people who are generally in the Democratic Party or Democratic leaning or liberal leaning, and they themselves might say, oh, that's too far, that kind of thing, I simply say it's not a matter of too far or not too far. What it's a matter of when we were younger, when I was younger anyway, and capitalism still had a competitor in the form of the Soviet Union, and this concept of socialism on the march throughout the globe, capitalism had to justify its existence as generally improving the lot of humanity, and one of its claims was that capitalism was a system that thrived on competition, whereas socialism based on cooperation was simply less efficient. There was a saying, competition breeds excellence. Well, today capitalism has lost its competitor, and it is now, in my opinion, running amok, especially in the case of our environment. Here we are locked in a struggle, an almost death struggle, with the petrochemical fossil fuel industries, which have pumped our atmosphere full of amazing amounts of carbon and now methane, which is heating our planet and radically changing our climate. And even despite all of the denial industry to deny that, no one denies that other petrochemical products like plastics and even just all of the breathing of auto exhaust, the breathing of coal, that type of thing, that all of that is harmful to our health and pumping our atmosphere and waters, etc., full of carcinogens. In fact, over the course of my lifetime, things have gotten worse, not better, despite the fact I've grown up hearing warnings about the treatment of our environment. There are now more disposable goods than when I was younger, not less. So when I tell people, well, reintroducing competition to capitalism by people calling themselves democratic socialists is a good thing, because if nothing else, it will get capitalism to behave better, I have yet to get any pushback against that concept. So then what happened in the case of India Walton? Well, based on my knowledge with viewers who have some nexus to that region, as well as my own just surveying of articles on the internet, there was a perception problem, whether real or imagined, and I'm not necessarily going to weigh in on how real those perceptions are, because in reality, if we stop and analyze ourselves, and we watch our interactions with others who we like, who we dislike, and then we sift through our memories, we can find that many of our likes and dislikes are actually based on subconscious associations. So to what level many Western New Yorkers had negative subconscious associations they were projecting on Miss Walton, and to what level they were picking up on some of her characteristics is really hard to tell. So many people perceived her as being prejudiced against white people, or people who are perceived as being white, and I put it that way because none of us are pure anything, as I like to point out, and we're all only a few features away from being categorized in one group or another. But that was a perception of her, right or wrong. Another perception is that she came across to some as seeming self-righteous and arrogant and preachy type of person. Now that preachy, screechy stereotype is one often hung on liberals and leftists. Now, right-wingers and conservatives have their own stereotype of sort of an arg-barg or a barking cadence they speak in. That's the negative stereotype. So whether you're liberal or conservative, you should consider those stereotypes and see if you are in any way filling out those roles. Another perception was that she was atomizing or hostile towards those already established within Buffalo, like the Common Council, as well as possibly a threat to landlords and property owners. Now, you might say, if you're more on the left and you're not a business owner, you might say, well, that's good, things need to be shaken up. But here's the problem, it's not that simple at the local level. I heard one statistic, and I believe it was on NPR in passing, that the majority of landlords are really mom and pop small-scale operations. And if you think about it, they are politically low-hanging fruit, an easy target for society's ills. For example, take lead paint. It's the landlords and homeowners who are generally targeted and held responsible Yet, my understanding, it was the mining industry, the paint industry, and as well as ExxonMobil in particular that lobbied to keep lead in products longer. So by atomizing and antagonizing the local owning class, if you want to call it that, you are pushing people who may have more interest with you into the camp of those who don't. Another perception was that she was anti-police. Now, here's another problem the left has, I believe, is that people have a legitimate fear of crime. Yes, there are underlying causes. Economics certainly is one of them, but we are now all stuck with this system, and people have crime has been held in check by policing for an awfully long time now. So this perception you're going to remove the police, I think there's no doubt that that would embolden those who would choose to break the rules. Now, all that being said, I want to go back to my earlier point that it's important, I believe, to have people identifying as socialist. And that was one of the most exciting things about Ms. Walton's campaign. So democratic socialism immediately has the potential to introduce competition towards capitalism back into the system. And I personally believe it's a stronger political identity than is liberal or progressive because, put in a positive light, it has this concept of we are all in it together. In fact, it could be spun that way or presented that way. Let's take the example of the workers' compensation program for workers' comp injuries. Now, many who are opposed to socialists would say, "Oh, big government, this and that, this and that." But that workers' compensation program, that no-fault workers' comp for workers injured on the job, has saved many businesses from lawsuits and litigation. So that government program, which those opposing it probably would have smeared it as socialist, rightly or wrongly calling it socialist, depending on how we define socialism, is a program that actually helps the business class as well as those who work for the businesses. So what I would like to see from those calling themselves democratic socialists is to focus on identity politics that really identifies with all of the people, dividing people as little as possible along race, gender, etc. lines, but looking for those unifying principles. Because for better or for worse, the environment proves that we really are in it all together, whether we want to be or not. Well, I hope you found this video helpful, useful, and if you did, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel, you've clicked that notification bell, and until next time, peace be with you.